shall I start the webinar and allow the public in?
Yeah, I'm ready. Everyone ready?
Yep.
Okay, I think we go. So good evening to everyone. Oh,
It's just taking a second to go live.
oh, okay.
Okay, yeah, good.
Okay, we're ready, and thank you everyone for joining in. I'm Sarah Butler, Councillor Butler, your chair for the evening. We're live streaming on YouTube, so you can either refer it to your friends to watch later, just so you know that's being recorded, and Becky will also be tweeting live updates throughout the evening. At the moment, we've got a break suggested after agenda item 5, but if we're cracking on at a pace and everyone is okay, then we may not need to use that. Can I ask councillors, staff and anyone who's presenting to please keep yourself on mute until it's time for you to speak, and then we'll unmute you and you can speak then. And can you also please use your blue hand signal for voting? Paul Wynne, who is the town clerk, will be using those to record the votes, so that will be extremely helpful. Welcome also to our attendees this evening. You can post questions through the message board. They'll be moderated by Rachel. She'll be posing those questions on your behalf. And so to the first point, which I think, Paul, is apologies. Do we have apologies? You're on mute, Paul.
After all these months. John Nelson, Steve Tanner, Nick Dove, Maxine Crawley, Anita Collier, Rich Ackroyd, and Rob Collett.
Brilliant, thank you very much. And do we also have any declarations of interest on any of the agenda items tonight? No, just checking through. Okay, that's great. Questions and comments we're going to start with from councillors and general public. We'll go with councillors first.
Sarah, just want to do the minutes from the last meeting.
Oh, sorry, minutes from the last meeting need to be agreed first of all, so we need to take a vote on those. Can I have someone to propose? Anne, and someone to second? Lizzie, and all those in favour, please use your blue button, which I myself am struggling with. So there's my hand.
Great. So I think if you just paint your hand blue, that'll be fine.
No problem. So I'll hold it on this side.
That's great. We have majority. So Sheila and Andy aren't voting. Is in favour. Is that correct? Okay.
Is that right? Everyone happy?
Hi, I've got my blue hand up, Paul.
Oh, I can't see that, Sheila. Okay, that's very odd.
It's on my end. I've definitely raised it.
Okay, so Sheila's voting in favour. Andy, just to clarify, you're not voting in favour of the minutes.
Sorry, I just literally joined as you were voting, so I didn't know what you were voting for.
We're voting on agreeing the minutes from the last meeting.
I wasn't present, so I'll abstain anyway.
Okay.
That's majority.
That's a majority, isn't it? Anyway, okay. Thanks very much for that. Questions and comments from councillors. You can stick your physical hands up. It's probably easy for me to see that. No, nothing. Any questions or comments from our panelists, Rachel? No, nothing there. I'm going to assume that's a shake of the head because you're on mute.
Yeah, no questions or comments.
Brilliant. Okay, we'll move swiftly on then. So the third agenda item, is the update on the work of the communications and marketing team. So that will be Rachel.
Yes, hello. So it's me and the team. So it's 6 weeks since I've done this, and normally I sit here and I read out a great long list of things. Anyway, today we thought we'd do things slightly differently. The whole team will come, talk about what they've been working on and highlight, what they've been up to and what they're looking forward to doing in the next few weeks. Obviously, we've spent quite a lot of time over the last 6 weeks setting up events which are now not going to happen as we'd hoped. And now we're into lockdown, we'll also sort of be reframing our work again slightly. So without further ado, I am going to share the screen and hand over to Becky.
Yeah.
So I'm Becky. I think most of you know who I am by now, but I'm the Marketing Comms Officer, and I work full-time in Rachel's team, and I job share with Laura for 2 days a week, and then I provide project, event and support for Rachel for the remaining 3 days. I'm basically on hand daily to deal with any of the day-to-day ad hoc comms queries, questions, issues, and any deliverables that are time sensitive that come through and need to be dealt with, whether that's from councillors or staff, or also externally with residents, businesses, community groups and stuff like that. And I think it's quite hard to put into a few paragraphs what each of us cover, because I'm here to respond to anything that comes up and produce appropriate comms in a timely fashion across all the channels that we use. So whether that's updating the website with further information on the second lockdown, or a reporting on a closed toilet due to vandalism in Victoria Park, no 2 days are the same, and it keeps us on our toes and we love it. So it's great. So you will have seen me lurking in the corner of your screens on these council meetings that we have online, and days of yore when we were in the actual council chamber. One of my roles is to live post on our social channels as the meetings are happening, as I am this evening. This not only allows us to interact with the public on any of the reports that are being presented, it also allows any of the people who are unable to attend the meeting for whatever reason to see what projects are being discussed, and they will also be able to be engaged with us on that level. Following the meetings, we also do a latest from the chamber, which gets distributed to the media outlets and online. Again, this is to ensure that we're fully transparent in everything that we do, so everyone can see what we're doing, and allows for further community engagement too. I take the lead on the press activity, including the Mayor's column, and ensuring that we create and publish engaging content and helpful content and upbeat content for the residents and businesses. So whether that's recent activity, for example, since the last Council Matters meeting, marketplace improvements, or Selwood Garden responses, Dr. Bike sessions to COVID response comms, the whole kit and caboodle, everything is covered to ensure our residents and businesses are kept up to date with relevant and timely information. I also get to deal with the media inquiries off the back of the press releases that we send out. And I liaise closely with BBC Somerset and BBC Points West quite regularly. This is great because when we appear, it not only raises the profile of councillors, raises the profile of Frome Town Council, but also of Frome, and it offers, again, yet another channel of engagement with residents and businesses. As you can see from the slide, these are some of the projects we've been working on recently. I work quite closely with all the project officers to ensure that their projects or events are covered from a comms perspective, and that can include the whole thing. So whether it's press releases, Facebook events, things going on our website, any ticketing, any promotion across all the channels, it also stretches to even attending the events and engaging with the community. There's a recent pic here for a recent example last week at Rodham Meadow at the engagement sessions that we were down there with Helen Viner. It may have been very wet and very muddy, but it was invaluable for gathering feedback, which will help to develop the project further. Other recent projects since the last Council Matters meeting have been like the bike jumble, all the bike events, in fact, all of Emma's events, the walking festival, which has now been reframed, the Halloween Winter Wonderland and Fiver Fest as well. So a lot has happened in the last 6 weeks. I also work with Rachel on delivering some of the FTC events, as she's already mentioned, and whether that's working with the project officers on their events for their area, or whether it's the bigger, wider community-wide events. We can all agree, I think, that the events have taken on a different guise this year, and we're not able to execute our plans as we might have liked, but we have still had to prepare and plan, and with the ever-changing guidelines, we've, as Rach said, had to adapt and reframe. The Christmas Lantern Trail is a very this, and also the walking festival taking that online as well. So it's a lot that we've done over the last 6 weeks. But now I'm going to hand over to Laura, who is going to give an update on her section.
Hi, thanks, Becky. Some of you might remember me. My name's Laura Hales, and I've recently come back to my role as Marketing and Communications Officer after maternity leave. So I now job share with Becky, as she explained. I'm working 3 days a week with 2 set days on a Tuesday and Wednesday. There's a lot of crossover between us, as you can imagine, for what we're responsible for, but mainly I'm working on town hall marketing, newsletters and social media lead. So I'll start sort of talking a bit about social media. All of our social media channels are essentially the friendly, informative and accessible digital face of the Frome Town Council. We have Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, as well as recently starting Frome Town Hall Weddings Instagram. And these channels all support the great work of the town council and everything that we're doing. So from the events that Becky's mentioned, the Halloween Window Wonderland, Frome Night the Light Lantern Trail and many more, projects such as the marketplace improvements, neighbourhood network group, Wild About Sharing, for example, and more general communication and keeping people informed. So things like job opportunities, grant deadlines, Somerset County Council road closures, which always go down very well, promoting Frome activity, things that are just happening locally, so local events, charitable fundraising, educational courses that are on offer. Of course, our biggest stars, Frome Town Rangers, can't forget them, how hard they're working to make Frome look fantastic. That always gets a lot of love from people. And finally, most importantly, celebrating good news stories from around Frome. So Frome doing what it does best, being innovative, supportive and resilient. That's really what we try and get across. So as well as planning each week in advance to ensure that we're delivering relevant, helpful, engaging and positive content for our followers, I schedule the posts ahead of time, which means that we can always be sure that there's a social media presence. But on top of that, there's a lot of responsive work involved to make sure we stay as fresh and current as we possibly can. And also it's an important access point for the general public in terms of questions and information. We actually get quite a lot of people coming through to us that way. So there's a lot of toing and froing on that side of things. Looking to the future, although we do our best to respond as quickly as possible and often to everything that's being asked, where appropriate, we're keen to generate a more two-way dialogue where possible and a bit more interaction with Frome residents, because I think there's a lot of information going out, but we want to create even more of a conversation. I'm now just going to have a little talk about the newsletters, that side of things. Currently we have 5 mail outs. We have the Town Clerk's Update, Business Update, a community newsletter, Neighbourhood Network Groups newsletter and the Volunteer newsletter. Most of these go out about once a month. So working with the appropriate project officer, depending on who that is, we pull together interesting, relevant and timely information. And in fact, according to our research, I was quite excited when I was looking at this, we're performing pretty well with an average open rate across our newsletters of around 39.6% compared to a national 17.5%. And then an average click through, so that's people actually clicking on the information rather than maybe just reading the headline, rate of 4.94% compared to 2.4%. So going forward in this area, I'm looking to streamline the behind the scenes process of collecting and collating content and make it even more efficient and effective, while also providing the project officers with the support that they need to communicate their work, because there's so much great stuff going on. We want to really make sure that information is going out in the best way possible. And finally, we're also going to have a sort of revisit of the look and the feel of them. So perhaps start personalizing them, adding more interactive elements such as more video, as well as building on the audience side of things. And now I'm going to pass back to Becky for a bit to continue.
You're a great tag team, aren't we? So I also report on our website and our social media channels in terms of our call together monthly reports, and these stats provide information on what has been looked at most on our website, what's been engaged with, and helps us to then make more informed decisions moving forward on future content, and what's appealing and what really engages with our residents and businesses. Not surprisingly, in the past 6 weeks, the marketplace improvements and the introduction of the COVID test centre had significantly higher visits in September. And then the COVID FAQs are back, and that page has seen, again, more noticeable traffic and attention during October. Interestingly, the job opportunities we've had recently, which was the Children and Young People Officer, which I think closed today, and the Resilience Officer, which is still open, the job opportunities page has sat at number 2 in the top 10 pages visited in October, which is interesting. So I think everyone probably wants to come and work with us, which is great. When looking at our reporting for our social channels for October, we have seen that the vandalism, which I know Chris is going to touch on later in his report, vandalism to Welshmill and the share box has gained a lot of traction because people weren't happy about that when that happened. Further reach and engagement was gained for posts regarding the Selwood Garden community meetings that were held last month. And there was also, understandably, a huge amount of traffic for the Halloween Window Wonderland, which is not surprising how successful that event was. In fact, we have seen that on our events, as the slide shows, over the last that our events on Facebook have reached over 80,000 screens. In fact, that says 81.6. My stats are out of date by a day. In the past year, and 47,000 of those were in the past 3 months, but that's actually 47.2. So again, this can be attributed to creating the creative COVID-friendly events for the community to take part in while following the guidelines. And again, that still concurs when we're thinking about what we will do with the Walking Festival and the Christmas Lantern Trail moving forward. And I think back to Laura now.
Yes, back to me very briefly, really, just a little bit about the marketing for the town hall, because obviously it's a slightly strange time for marketing around this as we're not currently open to the public. But our focus is now on promoting the town hall as a place for business bookings and weddings when possible, so obviously not right now, in relation to the COVID-19 guidelines. So we've been doing a lot of work on that. And then I think we're going to be moving on from Nikki, who will tell you a bit more, but as you will see, the weddings are definitely off to a flying start. And we will continue to build on this by designing and implementing a strategic social media wedding campaign. So I'll hand over to Nikki now.
Hello everyone. For those that don't already know me, I am Nikki and I work the first half of my week with the comms team as the events administrator. My role mainly consists of bringing together our town council events, anything from taking photos of our local independent shop owners as they reopened after the first lockdown, sourcing radio hire, ensuring deadlines are met, and also supporting the event team on the day of the various tasks. For example, taking payments at the recent bike jumble, which was a huge success and very well received. Since gaining our licence to become Froome's registry office, I have been overseeing the wedding ceremonies that are now taking place on a monthly basis. From making foliage displays so that the town hall looks as it should, right down to ironing the cloth to an inch of its life. There can be between 1 and 5 ceremonies in one day, so busy as it is, with each one creating a special memory to cherish for each couple. The downside of my role has been that I have most recently events-wise been cancelling both bookings and events and trying to reschedule everything again for obviously when we come out of lockdown. So it's also very lovely to hear the positive feedback that we get from the general public, because I'm on the phones a lot as well, so we do get a lot of lovely kind comments from people that appreciate what we do. Thank you. Next to Chloe.
Hello, I am a marketing and communications assistant here, as many of you already know, which means for me that most of my day is taken up making various posters and artwork for us. So there are a few examples here. There is the Walking Festival banner, which we've done, and a couple of other things we've done in partnership with organisations. So the Halloween Wonderland poster we did with Window Wonderland to support that one. It was very quickly put together so that people could have a safe alternative to trick-or-treating this year. And we also worked with Froome Community Drivers who rebranded. They were Froome Community Cars and then they rebranded to Community Drivers to just get the messaging across that they can help deliver people's prescriptions and things like that. So it's more than just being driven from one place to another to help support people during lockdown. There's also a few miscellaneous things like our normal template posters, which are very recognisable for us, and they contain part of the lettering from our logos. And we also have developed a new signage template this year, which is the posters with the 3 squares. And those very quickly and simply convey a few different points. You might have seen them in the town hall or in our parks and open spaces. We've used them a lot in Victoria Park and in the other parks to encourage a stay safe message, and just very quickly reinforce those key coronavirus guidance. So that's this slide. And then another part of my job is making content for our Instagram. So in the last couple of months, the biggest thing was Froome Fiver Fest. So we ran that for the 2nd year from the 15th to the 17th of October. And Instagram is always the place that where we promote it most. We get a lot of engagement with businesses on Instagram, and they really appreciate seeing that we are sharing their offers and highlighting what they offer as a business. And it's really great to see them support each other as well and support the whole Fiver Fest as a whole campaign. And that went really well this year. And then we have notice boards, which I coordinate our volunteers for, and I print all the posters every week for it. The key updates on those are we have been working with Fair Housing for Froome, and we have put street link plaques. They're screwed onto every single notice board. In all of our parks and open spaces, if someone notices someone who's sleeping rough, they know what to do, they know who to call. We also have a new notice board at Cork Street, which was put out as a temporary bus stop, but gets quite a lot of footfall, and also keeping that there because we are going to be working with open storytellers starting in the next couple of weeks. If anyone doesn't know open storytellers, they work with disabled and learning disabled and autistic adults, and they support them in doing a variety of activities, usually indoors, but during lockdown that's not safe for them. So they are looking for different things that they can do outdoors with their members. So they got in touch, and a few of their members are going to be volunteering with us fortnightly as notice board ambassadors, and they will be updating a few of our town centre notice boards, which gives them some experience, some sort of work experience, a way to find out everything that's happening in Froome and get a better idea, and hopefully they will find a lot of value in that, and it will be really helpful to us as well to have those boards covered and to be able to work with them. I think we're over to George now.
Hello, I'm going to apologise in advance. I've got a terrible signal here tonight and I keep dropping out. So if I just disappear, I'm not being rude. I'm being booted out. So yeah, I'm George. I'm Marketing and Tourism Officer. I spend much of my day on the Discover Froome website and also the Town Council website. So in terms of the Discover Froome website, one of the main things I've been doing, certainly over the last, all the listings up to date, specifically business listings, letting everyone know what the businesses are doing, how they're able to operate. So this week in particular, I've been mailing out.
Are we going to be able to do anything about this?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure we are. I think
George,
George might have...
can you hear me, George? I need advice. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, I think Rachel, if you take over.
Yeah,
So
I can take over.
Apologies, George, for that.
Great, thank
if you can
Sorry.
hear us.
Yeah, sorry, George. I hope to do you justice. George has mostly this week been completely reframing the Discover Froome listings element on all the businesses are listed on Discover Froome, and hopefully all the information's now come back from businesses around what they're doing in lockdown so that we can support them to continue trading where possible. So for example, a lot of the cafes will do takeout food, and a lot of businesses are doing click and collect. Obviously the food elements are staying open, but most businesses are trying to operate in some ways, and quite a lot of our small independent shops still don't have their own website. Discover Froome is top of the Shopping Froome Google ratings, so this really helps support them, just letting them know where they are and what you can buy there. I think George has also been working on some sort of virtual shop so that we'll be able to have a visual experience of each shop, and that will help people support in there. But as well as Discover Froome, George is also our chief tech. Oh, hello. Are you back with us?
Well, I am. I don't know how long for though.
Okay, is it easiest if Rachel just carries on this bit? Sorry, George, but we lost
No,
you.
that's fine.
We lost you for quite a long time there.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Sorry, to be honest, I wasn't sure the next things that George was going to highlight, but what I was going to say was George is mainly our chief tech person. She spent a lot of time this year on making sure that the accessibility work is done, and we have a new website in process. All of which, George, we've had a slight hiatus. I believe that our web developer had an injury, so we haven't had it developed. So we haven't had it delivered yet, but I think it's on its way. And George is the person who then just sets that all up and makes it workable and usable. So that's fantastic. As well as that, she also does all the back end of the ticket stuff. Tickets to make sure that that's all sorted, and Discover Froome makes sure that all the events when and where possible are there and up. Another string to her bow, as I said, George is also very techie, so she also makes and edits films. Now, hopefully this is going to work as clockwork. This is her last example.
Rachel, we haven't got any sound.
Yeah.
Community.
Okay.
Will you start from the beginning again?
Well, sorry, you can't have me and the video.
Oh God, we've got to choose.
Here we go.
Froome has benefited from some transformative town-wide projects in recent years. In the headlines as the town that cured loneliness. Participation, engagement, and the principles of supporting organisations to support the community to support themselves are what we're really all about. In partnership with community groups, health connectors, and businesses. But ultimately, Froome is about its residents. Our work in neighbourhoods empowers residents to build from the bottom up. It enables residents to come together to make positive change in their communities, to create what they need. Events such as Window Wonderland and street parties bring people together. Litter picks are a popular form of practical action, and planting initiatives brighten the streets. Local groups are organising themselves with WhatsApp groups, email circulars, and hyper-local Facebook pages, and generate discussion about the things they'd like to change and how. The town centre share shop has inspired share boxes in our parks and open spaces, and now street networks are creating their own sharing spaces and food larders. Every day we hear stories about neighbours supporting each other with advice, knowing each other where before they didn't, rallying around in a crisis and creating a space where they're able to ask each other for help and support. That is the very essence of community.
There's so many different ways in which initiatives to keep people from feeling completely isolated.
I think it is that sense of security, of being part of this warm and caring community, and somehow the town council is not something which is out there and separate from that, but you are as much a part of the community as all the sort of 101 networks that we have in Free, which actually hold people together.
Together, we are connected, actively participating and listening to each other, which in turn combats isolation and loneliness. This makes us better connected, ultimately healthier, and leads to a stronger, more resilient community.
So I'm going to stop sharing now. That film was made by George out of obviously old footage. So I think it was really a testament.
It was really well done, George. I'm sorry she's not here to see us all watch it and say really well done.
Anyway, so that's us and some of the things that we've been up to. If anybody's got any questions, please feel free.
Okay, I saw Sheila's hand shoot up first.
I just wondered where that video is now.
So the video we made for the Academy of Urbanism Awards, which we presented.
Can you put your hearing things on, because it's much easier to hear you.
Hello?
Brilliant.
Oh, good. Okay. It was made for the Academy of Urbanism presentation that we did last Friday, and we still haven't quite decided where we're going to position it, but rest assured it will be on the website and on social media when we've worked out how to position it. It's a little bit difficult because it's the community saying nice things about the town council, and actually is whether that's the right.
Yeah. Okay. And the other one that I was trying to
moment.
find while you were speaking, because I saw a poster on one of the notice boards, was for the Remembrance Service.
Yeah.
And I can't work out where that is either.
So the
and I tried to find it on annual events, and it's not there.
So the Remembrance Survey is, let's go to the front. I think it should just be on our news feed.
I couldn't find it on that either.
Oh.
It's probably there.
Yes, it's there on the. It is there on our homepage.
By typing in Remembrance Service, I couldn't find it.
It's just right there in the middle of the homepage on the news.
Homepage.
Can you see that? It's just in the middle of the website.
I'm on the website.
Can you see that? It's called a virtual act of remembrance.
No. Can't see it.
Perhaps Rachel, you could send Sheila a link.
I'll try to find it. I'm on your council. Oh, there's home. Hang on a minute. Oh well, it's not working. I'll try it, and if I can't find it, I'll let you know.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions for comms, Paul?
Yeah. One of the things that we were thinking about is to send that video to all councillors in the first instance tomorrow, just because kind of seems to the pitch of it embodies kind of the fundamentals of what we're trying to do as a council. So I thought that would be really good to get out to all councillors and all staff. So
yeah, it made me feel really warm and fuzzy and lots of familiar faces in it. So yeah, it was great. Although a little sad seeing the lantern parade and everyone so close. But yeah, it's a lovely film. It really well made. Any other questions for Rachel or comms before we move on to the next agenda item? Okay, groovy. Next agenda item then is Freedom Town Council's financial position as of end of September. This is for approval, and that will be sitting with Sarah.
Hi there.
Hi.
No lovely pictures, I'm afraid. Rachel, are you able to share the slide?
Yes,
about three, I think.
So hang on.
I really will whiz through it because you've had the papers, and so I'm open to questions afterwards. I can just whip through it. Basically, the report stated 3 items that need to be minuted, which is about the auditing mainly. Okay, sorry, we'll start with the income and expenditure highlight. So we received the second half of the precept in September, and we paid out on capital expenditure for the marketplace to Griffiths contractors 93,000, and for the bus shelters to Macemen for 18,000. We spread our reserves across 5 banks to manage the risk. and we do try to keep the reserves even in each account. You'll see at September it was very high in Barclays because we only just moved it out at the beginning of October. Thanks. Can I have the next slide, please? So for the minutes, the external auditor's report was received in August, and that was satisfactory to the year end March 20. The notice of public rights of inspection went up in May before the external audit was complete, and again in August after the external audit was complete. The internal auditors visited remotely in September and carried out an audit for April to August, and they were happy with everything apart from the fact that we hadn't had the notice of public right noted in the minute, hence it's here. Have the next slide, please. So as I've been saying for a while, we keep doing year-end forecasts really from sometime in May. The latest one was done for the end of September figures, so it's already a bit out of date, but we anticipate that due to coronavirus, our increased expenses and loss of income will be around 149. We have just this afternoon had news from Mendip that they are able to help us out with 35,000. So that is something, and that's contrary to the report that I sent out when we hadn't heard from Mendip. The year-end forecast at the moment is still unknown, and really it will be so until January, but we will keep trying every month to give you an update. And that's it. The recommendations, please.
Does anyone have any questions before we go to that? Could we unshare the screen, please?
Yeah.
So I can see everyone's faces. Thank you, Anne.
Thank you, Sarah. Two questions. I came across the concept of AGAR in the report. I wonder if you could just explain what AGAR is.
It's the annual governance and accountability return. So it's the statement of finances and procedures that's submitted to the external auditors every year. So the internal auditors look at the income and expense and the balance sheet every quarter and all our transactions and how we've done things. That all gets put into a special AGAR and sent to the external auditors.
Okay, and then the second question, I noticed the high expense of bailiffs to remove travellers from Waylands, and how do we possibly budget for things like that? Does that just come from our emergency reserves, or do we have money set aside? Because it's quite expensive to do that.
It is. Chris, would you like to respond, or?
I'm happy to. I mean, yeah, absolutely, Anne. You're right. It is expensive. It's something we've had to do more often than I think we'd like to do. Usually, it will get covered by the budget that looks after the parks and open spaces. So it means foregoing doing something in the financial year, particularly this year more than any other. I think in other years perhaps there might be some discussion with between myself, Sarah, and Paul as to whether it's covered from a reserve, but this year I don't think that's going to be the case.
Thank you.
Okay, Anne, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, so we now need to approve. Oh, sorry, Andy. Yeah, I see it.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. Thank you, Sarah, for that. Just a couple of, well, just one question, really. I don't know if we make it public or whether we don't, or whether it's confidential, etc. But if we don't, and you're able to tell me, you mentioned we keep our reserves spread across 5 banks for safety. Who is it we use for that, if you're able to
Sure.
say?
We have 2 accounts at Barclays, the main current account and the deposit account. We have an account at the CCLA, which is the churches. Sorry, I don't know actually what the name of the definite is. The churches, local authorities.
Yeah,
is that right?
Something like that, Sarah. Yeah.
We have 2 accounts at the charity bank, and we have 1 account at Triodos and 1 at Unity.
Okay, so we're making use of ethical banks where we can.
We are, and we have tried every time we've tried to move away from Barclays. Last time I think Anne was involved in an extensive exercise we researched with Handelsbanken, and it turned out that the fees they wanted to charge us to move our banking to them was prohibitive.
Yeah, they quite often are.
Is that something we're still looking at, Anne? Thank you.
Yeah, always under review. If it's any consolation, Barclays no longer finance fracking in the UK. I don't think that was an ethics decision. I think it was more a finance decision that they took that decision. But yeah, keeping it under review. One of the problems is that the Unity Trust Bank, which do have a current account, but unfortunately they can't yet process batch payments. That's right, Sarah, isn't it? I think that's the limitation. They know it's something that we would like, and I think if they get a growing demand, that is something that they'll offer. And as soon as they can offer us that sort of service at an acceptable cost, because we have to balance that, it's public money after all, then we'll again review, and provided they provide all of the services that we need, we will move, because it's a balancing exercise. If we can't do batch payments, then it's a great deal of staff time in order to process those payments. So again, it would cost the council a great deal of money to move. So yeah, but we keep it under review.
So I'm currently trialing a piece of software in my professional capacity, which is a deposit, and I should say I'm about to start trialing the software, which is deposit and banking research.
Is that deposit?
We lost you, Anne.
I used to use something called Deposit Sense.
No, it's another tool. It's a bit like Deposit Sense. So do feel free to loop me in if you want to for future.
Excellent, thank you for that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Any other questions for Sarah before we go to approve the finances? Okay, could I please have someone to propose? Sheila? And someone to second? Mark, thank you. And everyone in favour? That's unanimous, is it, Paul?
Unanimous.
Excellent. All right, thank you very much. Agenda item number 5, which is what's been happening in our parks and open spaces. And for that, we're over to Chris.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Good evening, everyone. So we've got for information report about, as Sarah suggested, what's been happening in the parks and green spaces. In actual fact, we missed the September one as well, so you got 2 updates, but I'll concentrate on the November one, if that's okay, and just pick out a couple of points and then take any questions. The Rangers have finished landscaping works at Chateau Gontier Walk, generally very well received, although we have had a couple of queries about the design with a couple of people less happy. Sadly, the update is already out of date. We were talking about resuming our work with the Discovery Rangers and hoping to start work again with Critchell Rangers. Both of those things are now not going to happen until after Christmas. We've got a couple of bits of play equipment over at the show field, a spinning disc that is being refurbished and will be refitted. We've also had to remove the basket swing over there because the timber has got to a point that it's rotted out. We are highly unlikely to replace that over the winter period because the show field is a wet site. The other thing that we'd like to do is take the opportunity to just ask people whether they'd like us to replace it on a like-for-like basis. Play equipment is obviously pretty expensive, and I think it's an important question to ask, and we'll do that as part of our play strategy, which is coming up. The other thing that this particular parks update, or rather I should say the November one, includes is a few paragraphs on vandalism, which is something that has been troubling the town over the last few weeks. And so ordinarily you wouldn't have those paragraphs included, but they've been added just to highlight that the Rangers have spent quite a bit of time being responsive and reactive to that. And although the direct financial costs to us so far haven't been too high, excluding the damage at Welshmere Wall, there is quite a considerable cost in the ranger's time, and one that we plan for to a degree, but certainly the last 2 or 3 weeks has been vandalism, the sort of which we haven't really seen for a little while. So, but as I said, happy to answer and take any questions on those 2 updates.
Thank you very much, Chris. And Anne, again, first up with the hand.
Quick off the mark. Again, it's how do we budget for vandalism? I noticed later on we've got an insurance claim. Do we have any sort of no claims bonus or anything? Presumably that might put our premiums up, might it? Or how do we budget for vandalism? Presumably it's just going to mean we can't do more stuff again.
Yeah, essentially, and I think one of the points hopefully made in the report, and certainly something that we've tried to make in the press releases since the vandalism, is that it's money we'd rather be spending elsewhere, and it's time we'd rather be spending elsewhere. With the wall at Welshmill in particular, that's some fairly significant damage. That's work that's going to be undertaken by a stonemason. So, as appropriate, where the damage merits it, we look to claim through our insurance company, and yes, eventually that's going to have an impact on our premium because that's how it works. But then I suspect insurance companies who insure local councils will make some allowances for these things to happen too. But kind of the more minor stuff, so the update talks about, you know, repair works of £250 to £300. That's probably crept up to about £400 now, but that simply comes out of the parks budget, and it's simply something that, yeah, we'd have much rather spent that on a new bench somewhere for somebody to sit on, but in the current climate we've had to spend it on different things. And
I don't know whether nationally it's like an indicator of stressed society, you know, increased vandalism. Are other councils experiencing it too?
You know, I haven't asked any actually. It's probably a good question, and certainly one that I'm happy to kind of ask some of our neighbouring parishes. It can be sometimes quite tricky because some of the parishes, we quite like talking to, you know, your Bristols, your Baths for getting ideas, but obviously they're very different. They're cities, they're much larger, but certainly I'm very happy to talk to the likes of Trowbridge, Chippenham, see whether they've got anything, whether it is simply we're suffering a little spate at the moment and there's, you know, either an individual or a group of people who are feeling that this is the best way for them to be expressing themselves.
And are you, presumably you are working with Kate Hellard to try and counter it?
Yeah, so there's a number of organisations involved in looking at this. We've certainly been working closely with the police and with Froome Learning Partnership as well. That's not to say that this is definitely something that young people are doing. However, there is a fair degree of evidence that suggests that is the case on this occasion. So yeah, those are the organisations we're looking to work with on this.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. And Anne, any further questions for Chris on that update? Okay, so we did have a break scheduled in at this point, but remarkably, we're running at pretty good time and we only have 4 agenda items left. My sense is that it's going to be a shorter second half than first half. Does everyone want to give me the thumbs up or thumbs down for going on? That's a pretty unanimous thumbs up. And I think it's back now to you, Chris, again, isn't it, for Dippy and Tower View site management plans updates, and it's also going to be for approval. So back over to Chris.
Okay, thank you. Rachel, if you've got the control, I think we've got just a couple of photos on this slide, and then we've got some recommendations, either Laura or Rachel. Next one along. Lovely, thank you very much. So yes, as we usually do at Council Matters meetings, we're looking at the management plans for a couple of the spaces that we look after, the Dippy and Tower View. Hopefully everyone's had the opportunity to look at the plans. They've had the opportunity to look at the risk assessments that have been prepared as well. I think I'd just like to quickly highlight a couple of key bits. We've submitted a funding bid to the Heritage Lottery Fund. There's a Green Recovery Fund at the present time, and we've put in a bid for the better part of £250,000 for a project to rewild and improve the habitat in the Dippy by removing the uncovered culvert that runs across the entire site, which is one of the things that you see in the photo on the left of the screen. If that funding comes through, that will be a very significant project for us. And although it will be one that is undertaken by specialist contractors, I think there is a strong likelihood the Dippy would be closed for public access while that happens, probably fully, but certainly in part. It would be the next very, very significant project for that particular space. Beyond that, the Dippy is evolving rather than significant changes over there. The other photo you've got is a nice photo of the play equipment over at Tower View, which was the most recent thing. So we had the existing play equipment was refurbished, and together with the friends of the Mount, Marston and Keyford, we were able to put some new play equipment and some new fitness equipment there. Since the last management plan was looked at, the new thing that we're looking at Tower View is there have been some issues with people parking on the green, particularly at school pickup and drop-off times, possibly related to coronavirus, with more people maybe driving there, less parking being available and people wanting to keep their distance. So we're going to look at some measures to stop that happening, because obviously over the winter in particular, that's going to cause some issues for the green. But yes, if anyone has any questions on either of the plans, on the risk assessments, please.
Thanks very much again, Chris. Any questions for Chris? I can't see everyone's faces screens at the moment. So if we could just quickly unshare the screen. Thank you very much. Any questions for Chris on the Dippy or the Tower View? So we just go, Anne.
Sorry, I was trying not to be the first or only one to ask a question on, but the Dippy and the Tower View play area close to my heart because they're close to my house. I know Rich has mentioned, Rich Ackroyd, so me, Sarah and Rich Ackroyd are the three councillors for the Keyford ward, where both of these areas are. And I think Rich Ackroyd mentioned that there might be some funding for the rewilding of the culvert coming also from, was it Wessex Water or?
Potentially, yes. So we had.
Am I not meant to have mentioned it?
No, that's fine. So there is potentially some additional funding out there. What we're not quite sure yet. I mean, Wessex Water will be a key organisation to be involved, because there are lots of channels that run into that culverted watercourse, and Wessex Water almost certainly will place restrictions on what the project ultimately looks like. However, like other companies of similar ilk, so the Bristol Waters as well, they're obviously always very keen to fund projects that improve our environment, because some of what they do arguably doesn't improve the environment. So yes, there is some other funding that we're looking at as well, and what may happen is that could end up becoming match funding that we use to try and secure the Heritage Lottery Fund. I suspect the Heritage Lottery Fund bid will be a heavily oversubscribed thing, and there will be lots and lots of other very worthwhile projects going for it. So if we get it, it would be fantastic, but we'll look at some other options as well.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question, Anne, and Chris for the updates. Anything else before we go to a vote? Rachel.
David Gosling wants to ask a question.
Can we patch David in? Are you there, David?
Sorry, we can't make David audible without making him a full panelist. He hasn't got the current version of Zoom. David, would you type in your question into the Q&A board, please?
Do you need to be visual to ask a question? Sorry, David, can you, if you can type your question in now, we can answer it for you. Can we see if that's happening?
I'll explain what's happened. This has happened before with people who have a slightly older version of Zoom. You can't just unmute them.
Okay. Not sure if no question.
Okay, maybe David, if you could hear us, if you could email me the question, I'll ensure that you get a reply if we can't do it here and now.
That'd be great. Thank you very much, Paul. Okay, are we ready to go for the vote? If I can have someone to propose Chris's item, please. Thanks, Lizzie. And someone to second. Thanks, Andy. And everyone in favour?
That's unanimous.
That's unanimous. Thank you very much, Paul. Okay, item 7. What's been happening at the town hall? So Sean Powell, I believe, is going to talk to us about that. Thank you very much, Sean. Please don't forget to unmute yourself.
I'm just going to kick off first with my normal bit, and then we'll
I'm sorry, Rachel.
Fabrication. That's okay. That's okay. So I'm just letting you know really the differences between last time and this time, if that's okay. We had expected Active and In Touch and Wild Women to return as tenants to the town hall, but as yet they've not returned, and we haven't got plans in place as to whether they will return. Big news for the town hall, however, is that the current team working in the building will continue to work in the town hall over the next month, as most of our bookings are deemed as essential. We've got 14 bookings over the next 20 working days and only 2 cancellations, one of which sadly is the weddings. The building is regularly assessed to ensure the safety of staff, tenants and visitors, and our rigorous COVID measures are in place. There is a new cleaning regime at the town hall. Hours have been extended for cleaners to come in at lunchtime if they're required. And we also only have 1 booking per day, so we're confident that everyone is as safe as possible. Regarding cleaning, we have taken on a weekend cleaner, primarily to clean the Victoria Park loos, but also to service the town hall on the weekends as and when required. Regular bookings that have returned since I last updated, I thought you'd like to hear. We've got Plus Positive, we've got the probation service back in, we've got Dimensions, we've got the Discovery Group, we've got the Family Mediation Service, and we've got Adventure. Talking Newspapers have also returned. So although things feel gloomy as we go back into lockdown, it's really good that some of those more statutory-based services are still able to continue. Financially, how the picture's looking is that we're still roughly, it is a rough number, it's taken, the number's taken from all of the bookings from last April to now, and the bookings that are in place from now until the end of March, and we're looking at roughly a £22,000 deficit at the moment, but we really hope to be able to make that improved, much improved, not least by some marvellous marketing, and hope that we get more of our statutory bookings returning. Sean now will talk to you about what he's been up to. Sean looks after the fabric of the building.
Thanks, Rachel. Hi, everyone. I'm Sean. I'm the town hall steward, so I look after the building and tenants who use it, and generally just sort of make it safe and comfortable for everyone. The main focus of my year was basically sorting the roof out. We had a lot of problems last year with leaks on a particular side of the building. So I work to the imperatives of what we call the quinquennial survey, which is sort of a idea of various parts of the building that are expected to have issues that we need to budget for to sort out. So the roof was part of it for the first few years, and so now's the time to sort it out. And also I've just been keeping an eye on various weak spots of the building, including those leaking areas, so we can budget for the next year. We're halfway through that roof work effectively, and the remainder has had to be postponed due to the backlog for the company doing it because of the pandemic. but I'm working on getting a date as soon as possible to get it done. Basically, the initial works involved plugging the gaps, which has proven very successful because we've had no leaks, basically, since those problems last winter. And we've had some very bad weather this year, so that's been good. The second half will basically involve laying new lead on the west side of the building where the problems were, to future-proof for the coming years. In the meantime, before we get that lead put in, I've been looking to get a fall arrest system put into the roof. This should basically mean that it provides safety for roof workers who come to do inspections or do works or repairs, and limits our scaffolding costs so that the roofers can just sort of come onto the roof through a hatch. So the second level of the roof works would have cost about £10,000 with the scaffolding. So that will be reduced for the future for every time we do a job like that. Other jobs that I'm aiming to get done this year are the replacement of some damaged external window sills. So that's another part of our survey. They're sort of parts that are on the outside of the building. They're loath to get lots of damp in them and get cracks and damage. And I've lined up a few of them to get sorted before the end of the year. They'll be done in the next few weeks. And other than that, just carrying on my routine maintenance and keeping an eye on things, and also decorating and repainting in areas that we get done every year. Different parts of the building get decorated every year. And yeah, that's been my year, basically.
Thank you very much for keeping it looking so splendid. Anne, you're nodding. I'm sure you have a question. Does anyone have any questions for Sean or Rachel, for that matter, after the town hall updates? Okay, that's great. Well, thanks again, guys, for updating us. Item 8, health and safety update, which I think is going to be Chris.
It is, thank you. So yeah, another standing update to the committee. So I'll just run through a couple of bits. So no accidents to report at this time, but again, the report mentions the vandalism we've been suffering. We've also received some reports of incidents at the skate park in Mary Bailey. And again, we're working with partner organisations, including the police, on that. Last time, the last update in September, we talked about the expectation that we would be served with legal papers relating to an accident. That has now happened. Councillor Andy Palmer, I think, asked the question last time about the reserve that was attached to that. I'm happy to answer that question now. So Zurich, our insurers, have a reserve of £107,000 at the present time. However, the solicitors acting on our behalf have suggested that that should be increased to 175 because of legal proceedings. So that is where we are with that. We've submitted and okayed the defence papers, so that is where we are. And as suggested in the property claims bit, we will be looking almost certainly to submit an insurance claim for the vandalism and the damage to the wall at Welsh Mill. At present, we're trying to chase stonemasons down, who my guess is have probably had a lot of work backed up through pandemic as well. So we're struggling to find stonemasons to come and talk to us about prices and when they can get the work done. But we'll continue doing that, and as soon as we can, we'll look at getting that wall repaired.
Thank you again, Chris. Any questions on the health and safety updates? Okay, we're ploughing through. Item number 9, look over to Laura for the staff update. Is that right, Laura?
Yeah, it's all in the report, basically. I just recently, the Rangers have done some chainsaw training, so that was something that wasn't on there. They've got their certificates now. Yeah, the main highlight, and it's been said, is the recruitment that we're doing at the moment. We've had a really good response for the Children's and Young People's Project Officer maternity cover position. So we should be inviting to interview in the next couple of days, which is exciting. And the Resilience Officer post is still out there for recruitment. So that closes on the 16th of November, if I'm getting my dates right. So the details are all on the website if you know of anyone that might be suitable for that position. And yeah, that's kind of it, really.
Thank you very much, Laura. Paul.
Yeah, Laura wouldn't do this, but I just want to highlight the fact that she's 5/8 of the way through her HR course. So far, so good, and I've got no doubts it'll end in success.
Well done, Laura. Well done for keeping it going and working at the same time. So, thumbs up. Any other comments or observations on that last item? In that case, can we have a slot for any other business? Can we do any other business? Is there anything anyone else wants to raise?
It's very unusual, but it's not impossible, Sarah, to ask for any other business. So,
Well, I'm just thinking we've managed to get through the agenda pretty quickly, and I just wanted to make sure there were no unturned stones, as it were. Anybody got a question that they didn't manage to ask or anything like that? Well, that was all very smooth. Thank you to our presenters, and thank you to our attendees for coming along as well, and to wish you all a good evening.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you very much, everybody. Good night.
Thanks, Sarah. Great meeting.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. See you soon.
well done, you lot. That was brilliant.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, are we still recording? Are we still live?